Hello, 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 and welcome to Women's Wisdom Wednesdays, where we come together every Wednesday to empower women just like you, foster connections, and thrive on our journey of surviving womanhood. I'm Casey Conrad, well-being specialist and whole life coach, and today we have a very special guest joining us. Her name is Kathy Steingraber, and she has an incredible story to share. But before we introduce her, let's take a moment to address you, our wonderful audience. We want to remind you to visit our website at www.survivingwomanhood.com, where you can find valuable resources, connect with other women, and stay updated on our upcoming episodes, webinars, workshops, and retreats. And we have a webinar coming up in the future. You can check on our website for the dates and the times, and I'd love to see you there. We encourage you to actively participate by asking questions and adding comments. And if you have a story to share, we'd love to hear it. This is a safe space for us to learn and grow together. We'd also like to ask you to share your favorite episodes of Women's Wisdom Wednesdays. You never know who out there might need to hear these inspiring stories. Now, let's meet Kathy. And I would like to share with everyone that our wonderful guest is extra special today because she is my amazing mother. So, Mama, thank you so much for joining. This is really special
Thank you.
for
It's my
me.
pleasure. Very happy to be here.
This is going to be great. Okay, so now we can share with the world how really special and amazing you are. So, my mama has been a lifelong learner. She's a wife, a mother of 4 fabulous children. I am the oldest. A grandmother of how many grandkids do you have, Mama?
11 grandchildren, 9 with spouses, 23 great-grandchildren, and 2 great-great-grandchildren.
Holy Moses, that's
A
wonderful.
bunch.
Yeah.
Wonderful bunch.
So many. We have a lovely, large family. Kathy is still and she's just had a birthday last week. And how old are you, Mom?
84.
84 years old, still managing real estate investments that she and my dad acquired over their 67 years of marriage. She is also still highly sought after to provide consulting services in the field of historic preservation, the development of reliable, realistic pro formas, risk management, and risk assessment plans. Amazing. So we're so privileged to have you here today. And I know that your story is going to serve as an inspiration to many women out there who are not sure, even though they still want to pursue their careers, they might feel like they're too old or the timing is off. They're supposed to retire at a certain age, society dictates, right? And sometimes our families, right? Our families pressure us to make those kinds of decisions, to take life more slowly just because of age. So my first question is, can you share some of the challenges, like some we've mentioned and any others that you can think of, that you've encountered during your life's journey and how you've managed to find the strength, brave through the challenges, and find the determination and drive to continue your career into your 80s?
I think the earlier challenges were the toughest challenges. 40, 50 years ago, it was difficult for a woman to be a part of a profession that was generally occupied by male figures. So that was a little difficult. But I came from a large family and everybody respected everybody, man or woman, boy or girl. And so I was very lucky. I also was lucky to have a husband who would support me. Sometimes would think I was absolutely crazy, but he would support me anyway. And I mean, I've had lots of jobs. Was a young mom. We were young parents with a young family. I had my first really full-time job was at Woolworths, you know, making ice cream dishes and things, which everybody loved, by the way, and including myself. And I moved on from there after all four kids were in school. I'd already by then had been working at different vocations. I mainly was for 12 years, was an employee of a historic department store. I was a buyer of home furnishings and draperies, which was a male-dominated area, but I was lucky enough to get into that position through someone else's retirement. So I kind of slid into that fairly easy, but I got to like that role. I learned and worked with women who learned from and worked with women who are much older than me. And I actually had one employee who was at that time in her 80s. And I thought how amazing that was. She could just work forever. And she took the bus to work. She had a nice retirement. She didn't have to work, but she took the bus and came to work 3 days a week. So I got very happily engaged, not in just doing the schedule and helping these women do their job, but I loved them all and adopted them as mothers, sisters, whatever. And we learned to work quite well together. So I kind of spanned the scope of age group that right at that moment. It seemed to me that age had nothing to do with our capability or our abilities to learn or manage themselves. So that was a wonderful experience for me. Unfortunately, that department store was closed by a new buyer. And so I was started looking for other work. And I went through different phases, thought about going back to school. Eventually, I ended up in a refinery, doing refinery work. While I was at the refinery, I'd already been buying real estate, by the way. I think I was 21 when I talked your dad into buying a second piece of property, which became a rental. And so that really, I was very young when we started the rental business. So we hung on to those things, but I still worked at other jobs. And your dad always worked full time. He retired at 48, moved on himself into another profession. But in the meantime, when the refinery closed, I had already started back to college in engineering, but had started doing some writing for patents and grants for the school. I was the oldest student in my class, quite obviously by then. So when they decided that the class, we needed more funds to do some work, I said, I think I can do that. Was my first try, but it worked out well. So I continued doing that. And after I graduated, I went to work for urban affairs at the school, who worked with people who were just starting businesses, people who were trying to get patents written and improved upon. So I worked through that system and I found that I liked it quite well. Never went back to any kind of engineering work. Never took my engineering degree out of there. I finally left with a Bachelor of Arts and a minor in engineering. So, which was really weird because engineering was science. So it was kind of complicated, but I had a really rounded foundation to work from. And I met a lot of people who didn't care if I was by now in my late 40s, early 50s, didn't care if I was male or female. What they cared about was that I was easy to work with. I accepted their I don't want to say faults because weren't faults, things where they had some voids in their education and the many voids that I had in my education because I was such a late student coming around. So we had this mutual admiration thing going throughout the university and then through the group that I started to work with after that, who were working with investors, low-income investors, people who had idea, couldn't figure out how to make it work. And so the most difficult ones I got, and it was good because it was a challenge for me. and I always liked what I did. So I think that's very important. But I also had the support of a family. My family, your dad, the kids, everybody kind of did their thing and did well in school, did well in life, and it allowed me the freedom to do the kinds of things I was able to do. We bought lots of property. I wrote a grant for historic I was going to say horrific. Yeah, it was horrific at times. It was a historic preservation property, circa 1865. We accumulated and combined 5 buildings in the warehouse district in Toledo, created housing and some commercial space. It just flourished. It just did better than anyone ever thought it would. At the time, your dad and I didn't own it. Eventually, we bought the entire back from the nonprofit that we had been working for. And so we accumulated those buildings and added them to our other buildings that we had already purchased. I liked spending money on buying buildings and property. I don't know if that's a fault. That is a tendency for certain. And then I like to fix them up. I like to fix things up. So, and then I started helping other people do that kind of work. Worked on projects, both in Ohio, 3 in Michigan. One I worked on with you to help write some proposals over in the Emirates. And because it was something I liked to do, it was less than work. It was energy spent, reward returned. And I found out that you don't just learn in a building. You don't just learn in a classroom. You learn by being open to other people's behaviors, what they know, what they don't know, what they want you to help them with, what they definitely don't want your help with. If they don't want some advice, don't try to give them advice. So then people started coming to me, asking me would I help them work on their projects. It wasn't long after that that I formed the consulting company. That was probably 25 years ago, maybe. And I've been quite successful with that. I truly enjoy that. Sometimes the hardest part is telling people their idea is wonderful, but the logistics of it don't seem to come together. And the finance of it is going to be extremely difficult. So I often help them try to find other ways to finance a project or suggest ways that we could write grants. We've been able to write grants for different people that have helped them, but I continue to do that. I help people with budgets. Sometimes banks refer people to me to help them get their performance in order. Doing a pro forma sounds very simple, but there are lots of things that people forget about while doing their work pro forma. You need to have carrying costs. You have to have insurance while you're doing it. If you have a vacant building, you have to keep the utilities up, the taxes paid, all the while and stop producing any kind of income. So the pro forma is extremely important. When you have a good pro forma and you can back that up and always build in a good reserve, no matter what kind of project you're doing.
So I'm going to stop here for a second because I want to, I want you to mention the name of the properties in Toledo that you restored. So people can look them up, and also if they want to look it up, they'll be able to have a reference.
Erie Street Market, the former Civic Auditorium, a very historic facility in the city of Toledo. And then St. Clair Village was an accumulation of buildings, one of them being the Hotel St. Clair, which served as housing for people on the canal coming through Lake Erie. It's a beautiful building. It's a lovely building. I fell in love with the building and all of the architecture immediately when I had some time to really go through it and look it all over. And we still own a part of that building. At my age, I'm starting to disassemble what we have with respect to my children who don't have that same love and desire for that kind of work. And at 84, there's lots of things you recognize. You don't want to work 20 hours a week. You might want to work 10 or 15, but if that fills your need to be productive, then that's enough. Every 84-year-old doesn't have to work. Every 75-year-old doesn't have to work a 40-hour week. If you find something you like to do and you're productive, it will keep you much younger than sitting around wondering what you're going to do today. I'm not a good magazine reader unless it relates to work. I do like books, however, but if I haven't been productive at the end of the day, I am not happy. I am not happy of days that are not productive.
I inherited that from you.
Yeah, I think so.
I think, and it annoys my husband sometimes.
I'm certain I annoyed your father many times.
Because he's like, can't you just sit down and do nothing? And I said, no.
No,
I really can't.
I find that very difficult.
Mhm.
Even
So
my
I'm gonna,
sisters now are saying, sit down.
yes, it's like,
Yeah.
I'm the same, like if I feel satisfied that I've accomplished something for the day, I can relax much better in the evening.
I
So,
find that the same.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm grateful for that or not.
Well, hopefully you are.
I am definitely. So my next question is talking about some of those challenges that you spoke about. How did you personally process and adjust to some of those challenges, transformations, and what strategies or practices have helped you to find the strength along the way to continue?
Well, I would say the first thing is I tried to make if not a friend, a good cohort in the people I worked with. Because it was challenging. It was very challenging. And it was as though you had to prove your value early on. This is early on. So I'm talking about early on in my career. But I would say to men who were stalwarts against women being in a certain industry, I would just go up, hey, I know you guys like me. Just give it up and let's move on. You know, you don't have to save face by pretending that you don't care that I'm in the room. So you like my ideas because I've seen you use them before. So I was just very straightforward. Maybe some might even say at times crude. I would, some decisions would be made where I was a large part of the decision-making teams. And they would come through with things and I would say, oh, that's a great idea. When was that developed? When was that idea developed? I don't remember that from yesterday. And they said, well, we were talking after work. Well, I didn't talk after work. After work, I went home. So I had this line, which is also a bit crude. I said, well, I can't go to the bar after work. I have a family that I'm happy to go home to, and I can't stand at the stall when I have to go to the bathroom. I know a lot of business takes place in the bathroom. So since I can't join you there, let's keep it for the next day's meeting. And they would at first be maybe abashed, mostly would laugh and say something that I probably can't say now, but in a very funny, happy way. So no, very, very many of those people, I would say 90% of the men and a smaller majority of the women that I have worked with have become very, very good friends, strong supporters. We support each other. We help each other out in our jobs. Many of us being developers or consultants. And even people from the city will call and say, do you remember when? How did we do that? And I love it. I absolutely love it. And so thank you, God, that my memory is still functioning. And thank you to my children who buy me Prevagen to make sure it keeps functioning. That's also a great gift. But no, I think liking what you do, liking people, wanting to be a part of something relevant, and hoping always to be a productive person. It doesn't have to be productive in a very laborious way. It can be in a kind thought. It can be And if someone asks for a suggestion, even here where I'm at now, in a community of mostly senior citizens, I find that my neighbors come over just to talk, but we're actually consulting, consoling. Three of my very closest friends here where I'm at right now, we have all lost our husband we lost our husband within a 5-month span. It's been a little over a year for me, getting close to a year for the other two ladies. And we laugh and sometimes cry, but then we all go back and we do something productive. We don't golf nearly as well as we used to. We hit golf balls, but it's not nearly as fun as it used to be. But we have book clubs, things to stay active, keep your mind active, and then they volunteer at different groups here. I have not taken on the volunteer role yet because I find I have enough to do with the people I'm working for and with. But I will tell you, it's extremely important as you age, as I'm doing, it does get a little more rapid. After 80, things change a little more quickly. I don't take on something that I don't feel I can handle in a less or more than a 6-week period. And I do that just for myself. I don't want to wake up in the middle of the night and say, oh my gosh, I missed a deadline. And it wasn't for me, it was for them. So I don't take on a hefty job. And I found also that it's easier at my age to identify someone who is really serious about getting something accomplished. If they're not serious, then I don't want them to be my client because I will give them everything I have to give them. If they're not willing to give everything to themselves, for themselves, then I don't adopt them as my client. And I truly adopt clients.
100% agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
So let's take a moment now and invite our viewers to actively engage by leaving comments, sharing their experiences, and asking any questions related to Kathy's amazing journey. And any questions that you ask, please put them in the comments below on Facebook, and we will answer them as soon as we are finished.
And I love questions from the group.
Yes, and we appreciate you watching today, whether it's watching us live or on the replay. We do very much appreciate you because you could be doing anything else right now. So, Mama, what advice would you have for women who are walking a similar path? Women who are in their, even like me in my upper 60s, 70s, 80s, who need to navigate this professional but also personal lives during some of those challenging times. What suggestions might you have
Well,
for
I
them?
would suggest that they keep themselves in as good a physical condition as they can, because the body has to carry the load. The mind can do the work, but the body has to carry the load. So stay in physical condition. I encourage everybody to walk every day. It doesn't have to be 10,000 steps. That's a job. You know, my goal is about 5,000 steps. If I come in about 3,500, I think, yeah, that's a good day. But 5,000 really I would like to do. So keep that physical part going because that helps your brain. And then stay involved with people who have similar likes. And whatever your work is different for everybody. I have several friends here who they work in the library, like 4 hours every other day. I have acquaintances who take people on tours around the area where I work. They don't do that every day, but many of them who are younger do that every day. But when you get to be 70 or 80, you don't want to do everything every day. I don't believe. At least that's my position. But when I do what I do, I love it and I enjoy it. So I don't want to abuse that by wearing myself out at it and not doing a good job. So if 20 hours says I can give you a good job in 20 hours, it's going to be a 20-hour job.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's great. Yeah, that's wonderful. Wonderful advice. And if you do,
Take
if
off more
you
than you can
overdo,
chew.
yeah, and if you overdo it, you won't like it. You won't enjoy it.
Well, not only that, at 84, if you overdo, you pay for it the next day.
Mm,
You know, I already have a sleeping issue, which a lot of older people do. I used to go to bed at 10:30, 11, and then now it seems as though I was getting up at 6 in the morning, then 5:30, then 5 o'clock. Then I'd be taking a nap around 2:30 in the afternoon because I was totally exhausted by then. And because I'm not just sitting around when I'm up and at 'em. So I tried to skip that nap, but now I find when I watch the 6 o'clock news, I'm napping. So I'm wide awake at 7 and I'm up now until midnight.
mm,
So, and then I sleep from midnight to maybe 7 in the morning. And I think you should get more sleep. I think
mm.
people have sleep habits and do a little bit better job than I do, but I'm trying.
This
I'm
next
trying.
question is kind of along those lines, and it's how has your journey impacted your perspective on the importance of self-care? And what are some things that you do that you consider self-care?
All right. Well, I think self-care is very important. I always had a trouble with weight. I've always struggled with weight. Um, and never, well, according to the doctor, I was obese, but you know, really not where I felt I was obese. I clearly knew I was far too heavy. But so I think it's important not to slide into that so easy. You know, when we do a lot of computer work and we do consulting work, we spend a lot of time doing research. I do. That my work requires a lot of research because people quite don't often have the answers you need to do what you want to do for them. So you have to do that research yourself. So that's a lot of sitting, a lot of drinking the coffee, reaching over, eating a cookie, a bowl of chips, you know, some chocolates that someone brought in and gave you as a gift. So gradually I put on 20 pounds that were torture to get back off. But walking helps. Walking helps. Having healthy foods around. When you have lunch with a client, don't make it a big lunch because you know you're going to home have dinner with your family. Make it a light lunch. I have I have kind of worked that into my schedule, you know, and my routine. So, but now if I go out to lunch with my lady friends, I don't have dinner. I just have a snack, a light salad or something left over in the refrigerator. And I keep lots of yogurt in the refrigerator. Um, I love it. Lots of fruit, lots of vegetables. Feed your body well, then your mind will work well, and it'll also help you maintain a healthy weight. So,
Great. That's fantastic. So I want to just kind of bullet point a few things that you've spoken about for the people who are watching and anyone who might be in a similar situation and wondering what to do, right? What is their best choice? And so one thing that I've heard you say a couple of times is it's very important to like what you're doing.
absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely. If you're not enjoying what you do, it's far more than work.
Mhm.
You have to be happy at what you do. And as I said before, I was extremely happy working at Woolworths. I was extremely happy working in the department store. I was extremely happy working in an oil refinery, and I'm extremely happy doing what I do now. If you put a little effort into it, and I think I've said this maybe earlier on, you learn a lot. Probably the majority of your intelligence and what you like and your preferences are come from experience. Just life and people, the kinds of people you're with. Um, it all makes a difference. Find something with people who have similar likes and look for a job in that location. If you truly want work, a lot of people don't need work that provides a salary. I quite frankly do a lot of free work, quite frankly do it. And I've had some of my best weeks just working on a project with somebody, helping them work through some issues. And I'm not billing, those are not billing hours. Your dad and I tried to prepare ourselves so that we didn't have to worry about that kind of stuff. And so we were fortunate enough to be able to pull that off. I mean, we were just two kids at the get-go, not knowing where we were going or how we were going to get there. But we were determined to do it and do it together, which we did.
Yeah.
So we learned a lot that way, a whole lot. So
That's
we
amazing.
had great people that we knew and associated with.
Yeah.
So
That's fantastic. And another thing that I've heard you say is it's important to create a collegial atmosphere with the people that you're working with and to find things about them that you can respect. And because if you have to work with someone, it's good to at least find some commonalities so you can get along. So it's not, that's not something that you dread getting up and going to spend time with them, which a lot of people, you hear them complaining about the people that they work with all the time. And so I think that that's a really good bit of advice, a wonderful suggestion, because most people are going to have to interact with others no matter what they're doing in life, because we don't live in isolation, right? So much. So I think even in social situations and even familial situations, that's a wonderful suggestion to find something that you have in common with the people you're with, or at least one thing that you respect about them, and that you can put a positive feeling toward.
I think that works best for me. I know there's an atmosphere in the country right now that didn't exist 30 or 40 years ago. Everybody's kind of on the edge of breaking down or breaking out or overly reacting in things. Everything is so overreactive. And that comes from the government and political world to kids in school and all the violence that we have. And I think we lost touch with kindness. Kindness can come in a lot of ways. Kindness can be just opening the door for someone, or seeing someone in the grocery store who's having trouble reaching an item, which is usually me, and some taller person, male or female, will say, "Hey, you want me to help you with that?" And I say, "Oh, yes, please, and thank you very much. I need that, but I can't reach it." And that's kindness. That's kindness. People who will come up and see someone my age and say, "Do you need help getting that in your trunk?" Kindness can be just so simple. And we need that. It needs to come back. It needs to come back. Like we teach our kids, please and thank you. That's our family fortunately does that. We have that. And I love it. Nothing warms my heart better than hear one of the grandkids say, "Thank you, Grammy. Thank you, Grammy. I love you, Grammy." Whatever. That's awesome. And if we could get adults to behave that way, not with the "I love you" stuff, obviously, but say, "Hey, good morning." I tell you the truth, I'm a hugger. I hug men I have worked with for 30 years. When we meet on the street, I say hi. I give them a hug. They give me a hug. I mean, because that's a true show that I value that person. You have to show people that you value them in some way. You don't have to be a hugger like me, but you can say something kind. It's so easy. It's so easy. But don't let me kid you that there aren't some people I truly don't want to be around. No matter how kind I have tried to be, there are still some people I just would prefer not to be with. I would be not telling the truth if I said I liked everybody and that everybody liked me. I mean, that would be pipe dream.
Right.
But I can work with pretty much everybody. I can work with pretty much everybody, as long as we know our boundaries, and as long as I know what you expect from me, then I can do that for you.
Mhm.
And if I can't do that for you, I owe it to tell you, I don't believe I can do that.
Yeah, I think that's one of the like most important things for everyone to hear. And I'm going to say that again because I think that is so important in every aspect of life that people allow you to know what their expectations are or what they need from you. So then you can do, if you choose, you can do your best to meet that expectation. That open, honest communication is so important in avoiding conflict or misunderstanding. I think that's a very important point. And the last takeaway that I want to mention is about how important it is to remain healthy, to make healthy choices, to keep your body, your physical health is so important to your mental and emotional health. And I think that that's wonderful advice, wonderful suggestions for anyone at any age, because that gets lost. And especially, again, as you mentioned, people who are sitting a lot on the computer, playing games, on their phones, whatever, sitting a lot and not getting out into the world, not moving their bodies and not putting healthy things into their bodies, which sometimes can be a little bit difficult and tricky because we're not always sure what those healthy things are, right? Because we hear a lot of, because, different things are healthy now, and in 10 years, it might be like, oh, my stars,
Keeps
we should never
changing,
have eaten
keeps
that.
changing. I think if you don't eat too much of one particular thing,
Yes.
I also need to say that I didn't just lose that 20 pounds by walking. I had a lot of sorrow. My eating habits changed. I wasn't eating like I should have. I had a little bit of illness myself. So I went through a period where lots of things were happening. But I have tried to, it's a year now that I'm back to walking. About 10 years ago, I walked continually. 20 years ago, I never had a weight problem. So it's kind of between the 60 and 84 that things kind of came up the hill, and now I'm on the downside, trying to get to a good level position. And so I think I'm pretty level. I still weigh more than the charts say I should weigh, but I really don't give a darn what the chart says. It's how I feel. Is my doctor happy? My doctor's happy. I'm happy. My clothes fit well. I'm okay. I'm
Good.
okay. So
Also
everybody
very
has to
good.
find out where they're okay.
Mhm.
For older women, some of them, we're not going to look like we're 50 anymore. That's what everybody said. Oh my God, look how this, I said, we're not 50. Who cares? You know,
Right.
and I'm really casual about that. I don't
Good.
let them stuff.
Yeah, I think also it's good for women to hear that because it doesn't matter what age women are, that's always in our minds, isn't it?
We're
Like,
always thinking we need to
how
look
do I
better,
look? How do I
thinner.
look?
Mhm.
Doing that comparison thing.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's just stop that. Let's just all
I
agree
agree.
to stop that and do what feels best for us, right? So thank you so
Indeed.
much. It's been so amazing having you here. And I just
Well,
want to
thank
take
you.
a moment to appreciate you for sharing your inspiring story and letting you know that your strength and resilience are truly remarkable. So
Thank
thank
you.
you so
Thank
much.
you.
And if you've been touched by Kathy's story, we invite you to leave a comment, share your own stories, suggest future topics or guests, and actively engage with the surviving womanhood community. And please remember to mark your calendars and join us for our next Women's Wisdom Wednesdays, next Wednesday, March 13th, when we'll have the privilege of hosting another remarkable woman who will be sharing her inspiring story. And Mama, your story is a testament to the strength of the human spirit and the power of
Thank you.
determination.
Thanks,
And
Anita.
it It's
Right.
inspirational to all of us, and especially to us, your kids. We admire and respect you so much, and we gather a lot of strength from you. So I just want to say, for my part, I'm sure the boys agree with me. We are so grateful. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, kids, also.
Thank you. So to catch up on any of our Women Wisdom Wednesdays episodes you've missed, please visit our website at www.survivingwomanhood.com and click on podcasts. Together, let's face every challenge, rise above adversity, and support one another on our journey of surviving womanhood. See you next time. Thank you, Mama. Love you.
Bye-bye. Love you too.